Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point. AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. You are listening to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on conservative talk radio. And speaking of muscular political figures, I'm honored to welcome back to our decision maker line Steve Lonegan. Steve has been a guest on this program before when he announced to run in the Republican primary. The primary was held on Tuesday. Steve Lonegan, a runaway winner, decisive winner, overwhelming winner in the Republican primary, and now is going to be taking on Cory Booker. Now, most people in America have heard of Cory Booker. He's got name recognition that you can't hardly buy. And Steve Lonegan is going to be taking him on. Steve, welcome back to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Brian, it's great to be with you. And yes, Tuesday was a phenomenal win. It was a real validation of the issues that are critical in this race. So we're looking forward to the next 62 days being just an awesome opportunity to put America back on track.
Well, let's start with something. Need to deal with this and then move on. You've had a bit of a frosty relationship with Chris Christie. You actually ran against him in 2009 in the gubernatorial race. And Governor Christie's out there saying, well, I'm going to endorse Steve Lonegan, but that's it. I'm not going to campaign. I'm not going to fundraise for him. Your reaction?
Well, Brian, I don't know where you got that information because that's not true. Not only is Governor Christie endorsing me, he'll be doing lots of stuff in this campaign. We'll be working together. I had a terrific phone call from him the night of the election.
Terrific.
Looking forward to working shoulder to shoulder because the most important thing is that we elect the first Republican U.S. Senator in New Jersey in 42 years. But even bigger than that is that we set the tone for the upcoming U.S. Senate races in 2014. And Governor Christie is taking a leadership role in that area. And as much as we've had our differences, we've also agreed on many things. I'm honored to have him with me and campaigning with me.
And it's interesting. I'm looking at a piece here in American Spectator, and that's new information for me, Steve. I'm glad to hear that. I'm looking at a piece from yblog.us reporting. This is from a couple of days ago, giving that information. So I'm glad that information is dated.
That is just the kind of sort of misinformation that in a way builds things up, because then when the governor comes out in a big way and endorses me, they'll be like, oh, wow, big news.
Yeah. Now,
so
I'm looking
at this carefully planned.
Yeah, I'm looking at this piece from the American Spectator, Steve, and talking about how you, as a candidate for the Senate in New Jersey, that you also represent a departure from the past of New Jersey Republican politics. Says you work for Americans for Prosperity. You have been a consistent conservative in the Tea Party mold. New Jersey is much more used to conservatives like Christine Todd Whitman, who could not, according to this writer, have been more of a squish. So even the American Spectator is noticing that you are cut out of a different bolt of cloth than what a lot of people are used to when they think of Republicans running for office in New Jersey.
And you know what, Brian? What I am intending to do is setting the Republican Party in this country back on the right track towards conservative principles. I think it's time we stop capitulating to the left, to these pollsters and pundits saying we have to move more to the middle. We have to abandon our conservative principles. No, we don't. We need to reestablish our conservative principles. We need to live with them, lead with them boldly. And that's social conservative issues as well as, and obviously our fiscal conservative issues, which is my forte. But by having bold leadership and inspiring people to follow people they can believe in who are not going to compromise when they get to Washington, that's the direction the entire Republican Party from here to Hawaii has to follow. And that concerns me that right now the Republican Party seems a bit lost. They want to capitulate. They want to compromise. They want to give in to Obama, basically. And I don't. We need to stand up to Obama. I hear a lot about how my opponent here, Cory Booker, he's going to go to Washington, D.C. and fix it. He says Washington, D.C. is broken. But his guy, his leader, is the leader in Washington, D.C. Brian, when you hear a liberal telling you he's going to go to Washington, D.C. and fix it, let me explain what that means. He's going to grease the skids for bigger government. He's going to push through even more big government programs, more anti-American programs. Fixing Washington, when a liberal says that, is a code word to their friends. We're going to go to D.C. and make government even bigger, even more intrusive. That's not the kind of fixing we need.
I played several sound bites from your victory speech on Tuesday, Steve, because I was so impressed with the energy and the philosophy that you were articulating. Again, this isn't primarily about Republican versus Democrat. I don't care in the end about labels. It's the values, it's the political philosophy that a candidate is standing for. And you talked about American exceptionalism. That's how you began your acceptance speech. You talked about the secret to the American economy and to its revival is getting government out of the way. And I think a lot of people in our listening audience, listening to that kind of Reagan-esque rhetoric, said, man, this is a guy we ought to watch.
And why we're not hearing more of that kind of bold sort of messaging out of the Republican Party is beyond me. Now, it's to be seen how much of a role the National Republican Party is going to play in this race. I hope they do. But if they don't, I have the people of New Jersey. I have the grassroots. I have people like your listeners who are going to be supporting this race. So I just hope all your listeners will go to my website at LoneganForSenate.com, because you know what, Brian? I have to raise a ton of money for this race, and I only have 60 days to do it. Now, Cory Booker, my opponent, he has the elite from Hollywood descending down from Hollywood Hills into New Jersey in their limousines. You know, we have Oprah Winfrey and Barbara Streisand and Steven Spielberg, and they have the Silicon Valley moguls all supporting his race. They've decided to anoint him as the senator from New Jersey and as their next liberal leader in Washington, D.C. We just cannot let that happen.
Well, and I think you made the observation somewhere on Tuesday night that what New Jersey does not need is to provide the third senator from California. I mean, you've got Mark Zuckerberg. He's a California guy. Oprah is, a Hollywood type, and others. And you're saying, look, New Jersey needs a senator who's going to represent the citizens of New Jersey, not the Hollywood elites.
This guy has been molded and schooled and fashioned as a tool of the far left. The far left. His big three issues in this campaign, he said in his victory speech, was gay marriage, more taxpayer-funded abortions. He wants taxpayer-funded abortions up to and including the day of delivery. And he wants to raise the minimum wage to $10.15 an hour. That's the only time he ever discussed economic principles. So not only is he way out on the left on the social issues, he wants to raise the minimum wage 30% and destroy every small business in the United States of America, virtually making many, many more people reliant on government. That's their agenda, to destroy our culture and to destroy our economy. And that's why I'm going to Washington, D.C. to stop this assault. And you know what? It's about time the Republican Party nationally, took this message and ran with it.
Well, it's a pretty stark contrast between you and your opponent, and Cory Booker. If anybody in his camp is listening, is welcome to come on this program anytime. Glad to give him equal opportunity to chat about this race. We don't endorse here on this network, but you look, Steve, at the contrast between you and your opponent, Cory Booker. You just outlined it. He's pro-abortion. You believe in the sanctity of human life. He's for gay rights. You believe in the sanctity of marriage as a one-man, one-woman institution. He wants to raise the minimum wage, so he's a big government on economic issues. You're a small government guy. Get government out of the way. So the contrast really between you and Mr. Booker could hardly be more striking.
Cory Booker says gay marriage is the biggest issue in the country. That's his number one issue, and it's important to some people. I support traditional marriage, and you know what, Brian? I have a lot of gay supporters. I have gay free market people who support me. Even have people that support gay marriage that still support me. Even they don't think it's the number one issue in the country. I mean, who thinks it's the number one issue in the country? The number one issue in the country is the fact that our economy is deteriorating as the Federal Reserve Bank prints billions of dollars of new currency every month to keep government getting even bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the number one issue facing this country, not the destruction of the institute of marriage. I support the rights of gay people to live their lives, and to be free and prosperous. And that's what I'm going to do for them. But it's absolutely not. I mean, to Booker to say that's the number one issue is just bizarre.
Well, and, Cory Booker's got some vulnerabilities, and you've already been talking about these when it comes to the unemployment rate in New Jersey and when it comes to the crime rate in New Jersey. It seems that there's a lot of information there that doesn't reflect well on his leadership as the mayor of Newark.
As the mayor of Newark, in the last 7 years, unemployment has gone from 8% to 14.4%, one of the highest unemployment rates of any city in the country, way above the state average. He has a dropout rate in the school system of over 50%, leaving thousands of Newark school students without high school degrees, many without 8th grade degrees, which destines them to a life of crime and poverty. He's had violent crime up 5 years in a row, murder up 5 years in a row. This is what he's done to Newark. So he's done using Newark as a stepping stone. Now he wants to go to Washington, D.C. and do exactly the same thing to the country. He wants to bring his left-wing socialist agenda to America and his job-destroying anti-economic policies to America.
Got two questions left for you, Steve, as we're bringing our conversation to close here. Most Republicans, I mean, the wisdom out there from the Karl Roves and the ruling class Republicans is if you want to win, you run as a conservative in the primary, then you got to tack to the middle in order to win a general election, pull toward a moderate position, and you don't seem to be buying that. You seem to be running on the same platform that you ran on to win the primary as an unapologetic Reagan-type conservative.
Because I believe those are absolutely the principles that this country needs more than ever before, and you don't have all that time, and I wouldn't do it anyway, 60 days between the primary and the general. Now, think about this. Cory Booker has to now tell people he's not a far left-wing extremist he was in the primary. I mean, I'm talking far, far left. And he has to tell them in 60 days, well, I'm not as far left as I really said. And they're trying to do that already.
Well, it's
the
interesting.
The liberal media is trying to say he's some sort of a moderate. This guy's an extremist.
Well, it's interesting, Steve. If you stay true to your convictions, which are conservative on social issues and economic issues, then it accentuates the gap between where you stand and where your opponent is. If you don't move, and he's trying to narrow that gap, then he's got to at least appear to be moving in your direction. So the conservative in the race winds up having a moderating influence on the liberal in the race rather than the other way around.
That's why our message leads the country, because it actually does pull people over. Even liberals really have to recognize that our conservative economic principles are what's right for the future of this economy, for real job growth. We're seeing what's happening to this country under Barack Obama. Jobs are still deteriorating. The economy is continuing to deteriorate no matter what the stock market says. So stay tuned to New Jersey for the next 60 days, folks.
One last question, 30 seconds, Steve. The election is going to be on October 16, not in November. Special election scheduled for a special day. Does that help you or hurt you?
I think it helps me, but what helps me best, if your listeners go online and donate to my campaign. I need to have the money to get my message out, Brian. It's an important message.
And give us that website again for people that want more information about your campaign.
Lonegan for Senate, Lonegan for Senate.com.
Our guest has been Steve Lonegan. The daunting task of taking on Cory Booker for the Senate seat occupied by Frank Lautenberg from the state of New Jersey. If Steve Lonegan wins, be the first Republican senator in 42 or 47 years, something like that. Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking time to be with us, and God bless you as you move forward.
Thank you, Brian.
Steve Lonegan, candidate for Senate in New Jersey. Back in 2.